I'm Christian Coachman, and you're watching the Best Practices Show.
Hey guys, thanks for watching the Best Practice Show. We're taking a look at the best business practices from the best dental practices all over the world. And I have a crazy special show for you today. One of our good friends, Dr. Christian Coachman. You do not want to miss this. This guy's a rock star in dentistry, and you're going to shortly see why in just a second. Now, couple show notes. We are shooting this live on Facebook. So as you're watching this, if you're watching and you have a question, add it to the feed. And if you add it to the feed, I'll ask Dr. Coachman directly while we have him on the show, because we want you to get the most out of this. And we also see people watching these later on at night and things like that. Continue to add questions to the feed, and you'll see we'll do our best to get these answers that you have to these questions. So again, you get the most out of this. And keep hitting the share button. Keep asking us for suggestions you want to see on shows. We're up over 38,000 followers on Facebook and over 150,000 have visited us on iTunes. Thank you so much. Now, my guest today, I'm going to brag about you for just a second, because you and I have known each other for a while, and I get to watch what you do, and I don't even know how you do what you do. But you, Dr. Christian Coachman, you just got on this morning. You arrived this morning from Europe, where you're just getting back from the European Academy of Aesthetic Dentistry, and you are the only dentist that has been accredited by the 3 most important aesthetic academies as of this weekend, right? And some people don't know what that is, but I think it's a huge deal. Tell us what that means.
Hello, everybody. It's great to be back. Always a pleasure. And yes, thank you for mentioning. It was personally for me an amazing achievement to be recognized from these academies. In the dental aesthetic environment, you have, of course, many amazing groups and associations, but I think the whole world of dentistry agrees that the 2 major academies are the American Academy of Aesthetic Dentistry and the European Academy of Aesthetic Dentistry. And Brazil, as the upcoming country in aesthetic dentistry, our academy here has grown a lot, and definitely the annual meeting here is becoming one of the top in the world as well. So I was actually, after this super special nomination, becoming an active member, because these academies are closed, are very tight. It's very tough to get in. And in 2012, I had the honor to become a member of the American Academy, a super special academy founded by the creators of aesthetic dentistry, I don't know, maybe 40 years ago, 30 years ago. Among them, Dr. Ronald Goldstein, one of my mentors. And in 2012, I became a member there, the second Brazilian to become a member there. And then 2 years ago, or last year, the Brazilian Academy gave me this super special honorary membership for the achievements and for working as kind of an ambassador of our dentistry here in Brazil. And this Saturday, after a long period of hard work, the European Academy, probably the most restrict one, accepted me. They allowed me in, and I became an active member, what is the highest level of activity in the academy. Super amazing party in Sorrento, Italy. Amazing sunset, great environment, and just a special, unique moment that I will never forget. So the triad is completed with the Brazilian, American, and European. So very, very special moment in my professional life. Yeah, thanks for mentioning that.
Congratulations, buddy. We got to throw some type of a party for that. But huge achievement. Now, I always see this, you have been such a valuable friend and guest and mentor to all of us. And you've been on the show many times. If you haven't watched Christian's shows before, watch them. But if people don't know who Christian Coachman is, because we do have a lot of dental students and younger dentists watching this, give us a little background in your bio and, who you are, where you practice, and what you do.
So I'm from São Paulo, Brazil. Actually, I'm speaking from São Paulo, Brazil right now, back home. Born and raised over here, University of São Paulo, dental school. Became a dental technician in 1994. Started to work as a technician for my father, opened a lab, and then even though I was a dentist, I kept working as a dental technician, and through my ceramic work. I was a ceramist for 20 years. And through this work in 2004, I was invited to work for Team Atlanta, definitely at that time, probably the most well-known dental office in the world at that time. And I became their head ceramist, running their in-house lab. After that, went to Europe and then worked with some of the top guys there, like Eric Van Duren, Mauro Fradiani, Galip Gurel, Nitsan Bichacho, the Ricci family. So I was kind of a gypsy technician for several years, working with all these guys, started to lecture, was always my passion, and then developed concepts that became known as the pink hybrid technique, for example, in the implant world. That was the first series of articles that I published with many great co-authors. And in 2008, started the concept called digital smile design. So this year we are turning 10 years old. Digital smile design became a company, the brand, the concept that is now worldwide known, and it became, I would say, the brand related to this moment of transition in dentistry, where everybody's going towards digital dentistry, but also towards holistic dentistry, also towards digital diagnosis, orofacial environment, going beyond the mouth, marketing principles, how to create perceived value in dentistry, how to make the whole world understand how amazing our profession is. So just in a few seconds, this is probably the summary of the digital smile design concept. Yeah. I think that's the summary of my CV. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going to piggyback on that, because as you and I have gotten to know each other, one of the coolest things, this is not about exclusive dentistry. One of your passions or your, behind your vision is that you can bring great dentistry to all corners of the world, which I think is very noble. And sometimes people can misconstrue technology as, well, this is the elitist. This is about helping all of us get better, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if we understand technology, not in dentistry, but in other fields, we understand the curve, right? Technology at the beginning is super exclusive and non-existing. Then it becomes super efficient, but still expensive. And then you enter the end of the curve where technology becomes accessible, it becomes feasible, it becomes the only way to go. Because it allows you to do better, faster, with better profit margins or with better prices, meaning that you combine efficiency with quality. So in dentistry, at this moment, we are at this point where finally technology is ready to help us to do better quality in less time, with more efficiency.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, when we talk about the digital smile design concept, you guys are going to see this. You have kind of your rules or your 10 commandments for modern dentistry, and everybody's got to have a protocol, standard of care for what they're guiding. And so you're going to take us through that. But before we do this, tell us why, because these are lessons you probably learned in teaching these concepts all over the world.
Yeah, we actually, I think it's way beyond the brand or a company. I think that we initiated this movement, but now we have amazing professionals, amazing teams all over the world going towards this more comprehensive care through technology. So when I started to talk about these 10 commandments of modern dentistry, that involves holistic diagnosis, digital technology, and what we call emotional dentistry, meaning really looking at the patient as a whole and making the patient value the fact of investing in their oral health and investing on a confident smile. So yeah, these 10 commandments, as we call it, these are, in my vision, is the summary of what dentistry will become in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. Take us through the first, you guide us through all of these, but take us through commandment number 1. Do you want to start at number 1 and work our way down? Okay.
I think the sequence is good. And I think Ben can share the link afterwards for people that want to read a little bit more about it. But I think commandment number one has nothing to do with technology. It has nothing to do with modernity. Commandment number 1 is ethics above money. So we believe that, of course, we have to run a business. Of course, we have to make money, but we are in the healthcare business. We are on the healthcare environment. So we are taking care of people. And in this environment, we have to put the patient in the center. And hopefully, by doing that, profits will come. But in many moments, the best decision for the patient is not the best financial decision for the office. And at that moment, we need to always remember why we are dentists. And that's why commandment number 1 is ethics above money.
Yeah. And it's really a core value issue, because that's a lot of the reasons many dentists went into dentistry, was to do the right thing first. And we've heard this for years, do the right things, and then everything else kind of takes care of itself. So I'm glad you started with that, number 1. What's number 2?
Yeah, just to emphasize number 1, since the DSD concept started to become very strong on the marketing side, and we've been teaching modern marketing strategies, and it's a very delicate balance between marketing, and then you enter marketing, you start exploring storytelling, and from storytelling you start to explore persuasion techniques, and then you become great communicator, and then you start to really be able to drive people towards a direction that you think is the best, and that's the moment that ethics needs to be very, very strong. The better communicator you become, the more careful you have to be with your words and your behavior, because you will influence people and you will make people make decisions. So since DSD became very strong on that, I think it's very important that we emphasize, and that's how I start every single course. If you're protected by ethics, you are allowed to use your communication skills.
Right. Yeah, because your confidence will grow, and you're right, it will influence other people. So no question. And it's an important conversation as people embrace this journey of dentistry. What's number 2?
Commandment number 2 is what we call the holistic systemic orofacial diagnosis. I believe, as I always say, that in dentistry, you need to be a great clinician with hand skills and experience to perform things well. But before that, you need to be a great diagnostician. Even if you're not, and these two things are completely different skills, different mindset, different knowledge, Education in general emphasizes much more teaching people how to do things very well, and that's okay. But we have a lack of great thinkers, great decision makers, great diagnosticians, as I call them, great thought organizers, people that can understand the decision-making process, risk assessment, pros and cons between doing this procedure or that procedure. And I think, in my humble opinion, that's the most difficult part of dentistry, of interdisciplinary dentistry, is the planning, is the thinking before even executing. You know, we see all over the world many more great executors than great thinkers making best decisions. You can make a great procedure, but based on a bad decision, and this procedure will not help the patient, even though it was perfectly executed. So I think we need to invest more on creating more diagnosticians, holistic, meaning general diagnosticians, people with the big vision that can see the big picture, that are not ultra specialized, but they can see all the specialties and see the patient as a whole. And that person needs to be the main professional on the first appointment, doing the diagnosis, the exams, analyzing the documentation, and after connecting the dots, activating the specialists. The problem is that today, many times, the specialists are doing first appointments and looking only at their specialty. Right. And that creates a problem on diagnosis. Mm-hmm. So amendment number 2 is that every dental office, every dental clinic, as I like to say, actually in the near future, we will have orofacial clinics. We will not have dental clinics, neither dental offices. Dental offices will become dental clinics, and dental clinics will become orofacial clinics, meaning that patients will walk in knowing that in that clinic, the first appointment will be performed by a holistic diagnostician that is an orofacial expert that sees the patient as a whole and will look at the connection of everything that is happening. And after that, will be the quarterback to activate the specialists below. Not only in dentistry, but plastic surgery, dermatology, orthodontics, sleep disorders, body posture, everything that is related with the patient's face. So commandment number 2, holistic systemic orofacial diagnosis.
Yeah, and I want to ask you about this, about diagnosis, because I completely agree. When you see dentists all over the world that are doing this, do you feel like people are just moving too fast? Because if you slow down, most people could do great dentistry. If they just slowed down, took the time, and really did a thorough diagnosis. And then the other thing I want to couple that with is, Christian, do you see too many people arguing about diagnosis? There's a lot of argument around treatment or disagreement, but really when it comes to diagnosis, there's only one true diagnosis for a patient. I've heard that so many times. Would you agree with that or disagree if you go slow enough?
The problem, if the patient has a problem, the problem is one. So you can treat that problem in different ways, but if you really go deep into understanding the problem, you're going to find out that that is the problem. So, and many times we are making decisions without understanding not the problem, actually beyond the problem. We have to understand the problem, the causes of the problem, and the connections of that problem with the rest of the body, you know, right, with everything else. And that's when it becomes complex, and we need to have specialists on holistic diagnosis, you know, on comprehensive diagnosis. You know, few mentors are very good teaching that, like, you know, John Coyce is one of them, really trying to make you slow down, step back, and not jump into procedures, but understand what is going on and create the perfect strategy for the patient.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a question here. What are a few steps that a dentistry student who wants to plan his or her first DSD case should take? And I'm sure this is going to come up throughout this whole process but I figure I'd just throw that question at you.
The first step that a dental student,
yes, who wants to do their first DSD case should take. What's the first step?
It's very easy. You just go to our website, create an account, and upload the information of the patient. And as I say, sending cases to us is the best course itself. So every case becomes a course itself. Performing the case with us, we guide people through the process of performing the case, and the course and the case becomes a course. Of course, that they can come to the course. The DSD residency number 1 is usually the entrance to understand in depth. But even before doing the course, you can send cases, and with the cases, learn the process.
That's great. That's great. Awesome. Now let's jump to commandment number 3. What's that?
Commandment number 3. Another thing, just for the student, suggestion is to download the app. You know, the app is a beautiful platform to practice DSD. You can download the app for free, and there's many things you can do with the free part of the app, practicing smile design and simulations, and taking pictures and sending everything to us through the app. So that is another possibility. To download the app, you have to also go to our website and register an account on the website, and then go to App Store to download. If you download directly from App Store, Apple doesn't allow you to use the app because they want to take 30% for themselves. So
really,
a little, yeah.
Okay.
So many companies, what they do is that you have to register an account through the website, and then you can have a free app download. Yeah. But anyway, if they have any questions, they can send an email. Commandment number 3, patient digitalization. What does that mean? That modern dental clinics, they, instead of documenting the patient, they will digitalize the patient. And of course, all these stories also have a very cool impact on the patient. You know, we're not gonna make an alginate of you. We're not gonna put an alginate on a first appointment down your throat. We have an intraoral scanner, you know, that will scan you, and we will eliminate one of the things that patients hate the most. You know, that thing going down your mouth. So technology has these benefits of the cool factor of simplicity and speed. So we're going to digitalize you. You're going to come, we're going to digitalize your mouth, we're going to digitalize your face, we're going to capture digitally your motion. And as you leave, you will stay with us. We're going to have you in 3D in our computer. So it's like being able to cut your head, keeping your head as you leave home, and in 3D, being able to slice you, see inside out, analyze everything, and create the best treatment plan for you, because you're digitalized in 3D in front of us, sharing your 3D information in the cloud, going back into the pockets of every single specialist on the team. So digitalizing the patient is definitely a commandment that will be key for modern dental clinics.
Yeah, and what happens is not only is the accuracy greatly improved, but the efficiency and what happens afterwards. But Christian, why are people, you get to see it, people are slow to digitization sometimes. Why? Just tell us why. Is it the fear of the unknown, embracing the new? Like, what do you see?
I think, of course, you have the investment, you have a little learning curve. You know, you're talking about, actually, for the dentist, it's much more complicated for the labs, dental labs, you know, but dental labs are actually investing much more in technology than dentists. And dental labs are the ones that have to invest 10 times more and have 10 times bigger learning curve. For the dentist, I really don't understand very well why the speed is not faster of digitalizing, because all you need to do is buy an intraoral scanner and understand how to use it. Use your phone to take photos and videos, and nowadays maybe buy a $500 3D facial scanner that is this size, that you can attach to your iPad, for example, and create a super cool first appointment where you scan the mouth with true color projected on a big screen, and the patient's like, wow, this is amazing. Then you take your iPad and you scan the patient's face, and then you do a CBCT in 3D, and then you show the patient how everything is connected together and how you will stay with us even after you leave, you know. So, but I think that's not a surprise. Actually, these are cycles we see in the history of humanity, you know. Implementing new ideas is always like that, you know. The thing that we say is that there is the sweet spot to invest and get the best benefits from marketing, you know. And if you miss this moment, you're going to become normal. You're not going to take the first mover advantage. You're not going to become an authority on that technology. The other thing, so investing now is an amazing moment, because most of the technologies in dentistry are still not used by most of the people, even though they're perfect to be used. So as you incorporate this technology, you become different in the eyes of the patient. still
Right.
today. In 5 years, it's gonna become an obligation, not a differentiation. So that this is it's a very big opportunity of investment in technology right now, because it's still creating a lot of noise towards the patient. Patients, they really see the impact of that. The other thing that is important that I always say, because sometimes people say, no, but I'm doing very well without technology. Why should I invest in technology right now? Or they say, I'm comparing the procedures, and this specific procedure, the way I do in the analog world and the way I can do with digital, the quality is very similar. So why should I invest, And my answer is, we don't invest in technology only when technology is immediately ready to give us a much better quality. We invest in technology now to be ahead of the others when technology is the best way to go. So if you think only on now, you're going to be the last one at the end, or you're not going to be an authority when that becomes the only way to go. Because you probably agree with me. I don't know if it's 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, dentistry will be completely digital at one point.
Agreed.
I think everybody can agree with me. At one point, everything is going to be completely digital. So if we are 100% sure that at one point everything is going to be completely digital, who's going to take more advantage of it? The ones that are investing right now. Because at the moment that everything is so much better with digital, they will be technologically ahead, they will be more trained, and the most important, they will be an authority towards the community.
Yep.
They will take the marketing advantage.
Absolutely. And let's face it, people now learn visually. So what a great complementing technology the patients have to be able to see what's possible. Now, I got to mention this. Adwait Desai, one of the great followers here, says, form follows function in harmony. If function is perfected, form will fail in place. DSD is probably the best tool for the same. Visualize and communicate the final results even before you begin any procedure. So thanks for chiming in there. Totally agree.
That's perfect.
Yeah. So let's jump to number 4.
Number 4, commandment number 4, virtual treatment simulation. What does that mean? That if you digitalize your patient, and now your patient is in the cloud, in 3D, and it's down in every pocket of every team member, meaning that everybody in real time can start seeing the patient in 3D, even on the phone, and we can all start a treatment plan as a team because of the cloud communication, right?
Right.
So the next step is that as the team is having ideas, we want to use technology to test drive the ideas virtually before we mess up in people's mouth. Oh, I have an idea. We should do that, and then that's how dentistry is right now. I think that's the best for you, so let's do it in your mouth. So patient's mouth is actually the laboratory today. We test drive our ideas in people's mouth, and the best we become, of course, the errors are reduced, but it's not a good feeling for the patient to, so digital will allow this amazing thing that it means whatever crazy idea the dentist has, the patient will obligate the dentist to test drive in 3D on the computer. Doctor, I know you're great. You're telling me a bunch of things that I don't have a clue. I probably need this, and this is probably the way you need to do, but I really want you to perform this in 3D. I want to see on the computer the combination of all these ideas. I'm not talking about a simulation of one procedure, but a simulation of the combination of the procedures.
Right.
So this is possible today in 3D interdisciplinary software platforms.
Yeah.
And in a few years, in my opinion, it will become mandatory.
Yeah, and we had a previous show. One of the highest rated watched shows we had was you and Dr. John Coyce, and you had Francis on here and Dean, and you guys were talking about implant. It was pretty amazing to get everybody on the same page because once you start this, it's irreversible. And to learn what the other clinician is thinking was my favorite piece because, it helped synchronize before we got started.
Definitely. That was a great show, and actually I don't know if we mentioned at that moment, but that was a extremely complex case. We were treatment planning the case, 5 different doctors in 4 different cities. And the first time we actually communicated about the case live was in your show.
Yeah.
And the plan was done. So everything was done in an asynchronous way, meaning we were communicating through the cloud, through the phone, and the plan was beautifully integrated with everybody's know-how. So you can only do that by digitalizing your patient, using cloud dentistry, using virtual 3D simulation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we'll post a link for those of you that haven't seen it. We'll post a link right in the body here so that you can actually take a look at this and watch how Christian did this with both Dr. Coises and Francis, which was amazing. Now, number 5. What's number 5 as far as commandments in modern dentistry?
So number 5 is actually what we just talked, is digital online team communication. All right. Performing what we call digital asynchronous communication. What means digital asynchronous communication? Means that through digital devices and cloud connection, we can communicate without being in the same place, neither available at the same time. So, for example, to schedule this chat between me and you, we have to go through several weeks trying to organize our schedules.
Right.
So we can only do this a few times a year. If we wanted to do this 20 times a day, the only way to do it is asynchronous communication, meaning we have to communicate whenever we have a few minutes break in my time. I will generate my piece of information, send to my team, and each member will only reach that information whenever they have 5 minutes free. That is different than my 5 minutes free. And so digital communication allows, in my opinion, dental offices to really deliver interdisciplinary dentistry. If you don't use digital communication, it's impossible, in my opinion, to deliver interdisciplinary treatment plans for every single patient that walks into your office. Because what is the meaning of interdisciplinary planning? Interdisciplinary planning is not related to your know-how. It's related to the fact that the plan is made out of many brains, many people thinking about that plan. That is interdisciplinary plan. Mm-hmm. Huge majority of plans in dentistry are made by one brain. It's one person, one dentist, looking at the documentation and saying, this is what we're going to do. Right. And that's it. So, and why people don't do interdisciplinary planning, interdisciplinary discussions? Because it's not feasible financially without digital communication. It's impossible. If you have 20, 30 new patients per month, it's impossible to stop 30 times and interact in the analog environment or even on the phone, for all the patients. Yeah. So the solution is digital communication.
Yeah, and it's so true because it's hard enough to even get together for even a beer or anything like that. Now with the platforms that you have through DSD, do you communicate primarily through the DSD platform, or do you use a combination of WhatsApp and DSD? Like how do you, because I always get that question, how do they do that?
Man, we have today 3 channels. We have the DSD Planning Center website, where every case uploaded generates a chat inside that case. Then we have still WhatsApp going on. So every client, every major client of the DSD Planning Center has what we call a WhatsApp concierge service, where the dentist and the major people on his team are in this WhatsApp group with our major players in the DSD team. And through WhatsApp, we generate this 24/7 support to our clients. And now, since we launched the app, all the communication is going towards the app. And in the near future, everything will be done through the app.
That's great. That is great. So good stuff. Now, what's the next commandment in modern dentistry?
Commandment number 6, guided dentistry. So in the future, every procedure will be guided.
Okay. Explain that. What does that mean?
First thing, it's not guided implants. It's guided dentistry. Of course, that implants started with that concept. Actually, I think before even implants, the first procedure in dentistry that was guided was tooth preparation. So reducing the teeth with the simple guides to create the exact reduction related to the final outcome. Concepts developed by Galip Gruel, Pascal Magnet, still in the analog world, trying to do a wax up and create a silicone guide and put something in the mouth and try to guide the reduction, not related to the existing tooth position, but related to where we want to be at the end. So very conceptually perfect idea. For us, with digital technology, everything will be guided. What does that mean? That in the near future, in our vision, every procedure will be done with the guide in the mouth, meaning there will be no freehand procedure. It doesn't matter how skilled you are, how artistic you are, how inspired you are. Patients will not want to rely on your mood, your inspiration, how skilled you feel today, how precise you are today. They will just say, I want guided dentistry. You digitalized me. You shared my information in the cloud. You planned us with digital communication with your team. You simulated all the outcomes. You presented these simulations to me. I approved those simulations. Now I want to reproduce these simulations perfectly in my mouth. So if you're going to just ignore all of these things and just try to do your best in the mouth, it doesn't make sense. Right. Because today technology can take a virtual 3D simulation and print a guide that can fit the mouth and guide any instrument to reproduce the simulation into reality. So commandment number 6 is guided dentistry. And in my understanding, patients will love that and will ask for that.
Right. Now, you and I both know there's never been a more exciting time to be a dentist, right? Would you agree with that statement? Like, this is crazy exciting. And in the same token, when you say that, I know some people are like fearful that, oh my gosh, you're going to take the skill of a dentist away. But really, you have to embrace the fact that it's greatly enhancing the experience for everybody involved. Would you agree on that?
I think we shouldn't be scared. It's just we just look at any other industry, even into medicine, and already happened everywhere. So we just need to understand there's going to happen with dentistry. And this using technology and guided dentistry doesn't mean that there's no artistry, there's no decision-making process, there's no treatment planning, there's no diagnosis, there's no smile design, there's no artistic principles of orofacial integration. There's so much that we can handle that we need to thank God for having technology now to at least control a little bit the procedures that are done in the mouth. There's so much that we need to improve in dentistry. So technology will help us with many procedures, giving more time for people to think on what is really important, and that is treatment planning and holistic diagnosis.
Love it. Love it. So take us through number 7. What's 7 as far as commandments in modern dentistry?
Just one more comment. Of course, that clinical experience and common sense, will always play an amazing role. You can give a guide and people can still mess up, right? Right. So, of course, guides will standardize the procedures, and guides will help the already great clinicians to do things better and faster in a more reproducible way, in a more predictable way. You need to be a great dentist to start with. You need to be a great clinician to start with. Then technology will help you to become more efficient. That's it.
Yeah, and can you add a little bit to that? Because sometimes people are looking for the quick path and they're thinking, well, digital's just going to fix everything. I think what you just said is very important. You have to have the underlying skills that make dentists so good at what they do before you add the technology. Any trends that you're seeing out there? Because you get a chance to speak all over the world.
Yeah, I think that as I already mentioned, we need to teach more people the thinking process.
Right.
Even hand skills, very few people are very good teaching hand skills, because we need to train people's eyes to see things. That's what scares me the most, when I see that many professionals don't even see the difference between something very good and something not good. So we need to train people to see first. Then we need to train the brain to interpret these things and guide the hands to do good work. We always need, so one important thing, that I always mention is that digital will take over the procedures and the production of everything in dentistry. But the best learning experience is by practicing analog procedures. So in school, we need, that's the problem when we see schools with young kids, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, and jumping into computers. Oh, because the future is computers, so let's teach as soon as possible computers. That's a disaster. It's destroying the creativity, the intuition, the artistry, the leadership, everything. Education, in most of the times, is a disaster, working against people. So for me, it's very important that education needs to explore analog tools to make people smart, clever, understand common sense, interpretation, decision-making process, organizing the thoughts, being artistic, creative, hand skills, eye skills, brain skills. This comes from the analog world, and people should practice this every day. Digital wax-ups took over analog wax-ups. Analog wax-ups don't make sense on the production line, but analog wax-ups are still the best way to practice your artistic skills. So you don't do wax-ups anymore for the patient like we used to do. Mm-hmm. I do wax-ups for myself. Mm-hmm. I take a model once a month and I practice wax-up for no patient, just to train my eyes, my brain, and my hands. Because then we can jump into digital and take advantage of digital.
Yeah, you're practicing craft, and you learn so much every time you do that, I would imagine. That's great. It's great. What's the next commandment, Christian?
Commandment number 7, quality control. So a principle that is pretty obvious and very common in other industries, very common on engineering, on everything that requires a project and deliver an outcome similar to the project. So if you talk to engineers, they know exactly the meaning of quality control. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, in dentistry so far, we haven't used this concept. So for me, in the near future, modern dental clinics will have very strong clinical quality control procedures. And one of the best allies of this is the intraoral scanner. Okay. Very simple concept. If you know what you need to do on your patient and you digitally, virtually simulate what you want to do, this generates a 3D file. Mm-hmm. Perfect simulation of the outcome that you want, right?
Right.
This will generate a guide. So you're going to perform guided dentistry. But after the healing of the process, you have a final outcome that not necessarily is identical to the simulation that you generated, right? So what do? The simulation is already a 3D file. You perform the procedure, and now you scan after the performance. And what do? You overlap both. Quality control. You compare the difference between your simulation and the real outcome. So when you compare both things, we're going to start seeing the discrepancies, how efficient we are, how precise dentistry is, how to improve the procedures, how to show the patient how close we are or how far we are, if we need to fine-tune, adjust. So not only at the beginning of the treatment at the end, but after every procedure, dentists will scan and overlap, quality control, and fine-tune the strategy to overcome the distortions, and then move to the next step.
Mm-hmm. And do the distortions become less as you get more proficient in DSD dentistry? And then I would imagine you have a bunch of checklists too that you follow for each one of these.
Like the airplane pilot, right. Once you start doing that, this will put pressure on the whole team to start really respecting the project.
Right.
Nowadays in dentistry, we have an initial project that is nobody really cares, because as you treat the patient, the final outcome is completely different.
Right.
So, because in the analog world, we cannot copy paste things, we cannot duplicate things, we cannot do guided dentistry. With guided dentistry and quality control, all the professionals will start to work harder towards the plan, to respect the plan, to create outcomes that are more similar to the plan.
That's so critically important. Now, what is number 8 of the 10 commandments?
Commandment number 8, natural smiles. And that sounds pretty obvious, but it's definitely not. That's one of the things that, one of my main topics nowadays. The message is that we believe that aesthetics in dentistry is under control, and in my humble opinion, is not at all. We are just starting to crawl into the aesthetic, natural beauty understanding natural beauty. So I believe that the only way to improve something is to recognize that you need improvement. What I see now is, since everybody promotes themselves as experts on aesthetic dentistry, we have that feeling, and the patients have that feeling, that everything is under control from the aesthetic perspective. You know, every dentist is an expert on smile design, facial integration, natural smiles. Why I believe that is not the case. You just see smiles that are done all over the world. You know, huge majority of every dental smile makeover that is done all over the world doesn't look natural, actually, unfortunately, if we are critical about our work. Every dentist that has good eyes can identify dental work from the other side of the street. So if we cannot identify that from the other side of the street, means something is wrong, you know. You see, wow, you have beautiful veneers. Oh my God, that's not good. How do you know I have veneers? You know,
right.
When we see somebody with beautiful natural teeth, everybody says, wow, you have beautiful natural teeth.
Right.
You know, I hope that in the near future, we will do dentures and veneers in a way that the facial integration, the aesthetics, the design, the arrangement, the color, everything will be so beautiful and so natural that people will look at our work and say, wow, you have a beautiful natural teeth. Mm-hmm. And the patient will think, wow, I actually have a denture. That's a great compliment, you know?
Right. Right. And we see all these trends all over the world. The one thing I appreciate about the way you teach is there's so much push, or so much emphasis on the natural beauty instead of the Hollywood smile. And that's not always bad for everybody, but sometimes we could take it to the extreme. I think you're exactly right, though. Human beings have a really good eye for what's innately naturally beautiful, and that's going to come to the surface more than ever.
Now, one thing that is funny, we as dentists, we've been so used to designing teeth and smile with our own hands that we lost the perception of natural.
Right.
Today, many times we think what we do with our hands is more beautiful than nature. And this is messed up, because it's not. Beautiful natural smiles are the most beautiful smiles possible, you know? And sometimes because we need to reset our brain, we need to go back and see what means beautiful natural smiles, you know, those beautiful, perfect imperfections that nature creates. And why digital is creating this movement. Because finally, with digital scanners, we can scan nature. We can scan natural dentition from every human being that has beautiful smiles and teeth. And we can use these files to rehabilitate our patients. So for the first time in history, dentistry is actually providing real natural smiles. And everybody that is jumping on board of digital natural smiles is seeing the difference. It's unbelievable. I can say that I was a very good technician. I was designing smiles very well with my own hands. I was working with some of the top dentists in the world. We were doing great work. We were proud of our work. But today I look at the designs and the shapes and everything that we were doing, and compare to what we can do now with real natural files. And the difference is really very interesting. It's a humbling experience.
Yeah, love it. Love it. Take us into commandment number 9.
Commandment number 9, emotional dentistry, meaning that everything is beautiful so far, using technology, beautiful diagnosis, ethics. But at the end of the day, the patient needs to give emotional value to what we do, because we know that people really give value to things when they are emotionally linked to it. So through technology, we can bring the patients on board of the process of designing their own smile, becoming the co-author of their own smile. We also really teach people on how to create perceived value, and I always say the difference between real value and perceived value. Unfortunately, we as dentists, we were not taught to create perceived value. We were taught to create real value, meaning we know how much we deserve. We know how much hard we work. We know how amazing the procedures that we perform are. And most of the patients have no clue. They don't see much the difference, and they cannot understand. And sometimes they take it for granted. Sometimes they really don't give the value that we as dentists, we deserve. And we can only blame ourselves. We need to understand that real value is important, but what really matters for our business is the perceived value. It's not what we think we deserve, it's what other people believe we deserve. So it's very nice when we understand how to create perceived value. Not only we deliver quality, but we make the patient fall in love with what we are delivering, respecting every little detail, giving credits, promoting us, becoming fans of dentistry.
Yeah. Now, of all of these, would you consider this is one of the hardest, that a dentist has to learn? It's a skill. But of all of the commandments you've listed, my guess is that's probably the hardest. Can you teach that? Can you teach emotional dentistry?
I think emotional dentistry, of course, has a lot related to your natural charisma, your communication skills, but many things can be taught in terms of understanding, for example, 2 topics that we teach, storytelling techniques and visual communication strategies. So if you understand the basic principles of how to explain what you're doing through storytelling techniques, if you can use visual communication and 3D digital images to explain what you're doing, your patient is already in love with in a different level. Of course, that if you hate communication, let's say you're a great clinician, you love doing dentistry, but you hate communicating with people, in these situations, my best suggestion is find a partner that is good communicating.
Right. Because your ability to communicate is going to determine how far you go in this profession, no matter what. It's still always going to be about trust and ultimately putting all these together. In life. Absolutely. In life. Yeah. So number 10, help us with number 10.
The final one, we actually already talked about it. It's actually what I mentioned, analog training. So after all these 9 commandments that were basically improved by digital, the 10th commandment means digital is amazing, but if you don't prepare yourself through analog training, you will not be able to enjoy the digital advantages. So when it comes to hand skills, eye skills, when it comes to practicing your brain to make the best decisions, treatment planning, scientific background, know-how, common sense, pros and cons, decision making, artistic vision, everything needs to be practiced in the analog environment. That's the best way to train. So I usually, when I'm teaching designers to work for us on our design center, when we are making the trial, the filter to hire new people, I like to hire people that have analog artistic skills, because the digital skills we can teach easier. So invest, at the early moments of your career in college in analog experiences, meaning real experiences, real connections, real friendships, real handmade work, real thinking process, everything as real as possible, real relationships, everything real. So because learning digital is very easy if you have this ludic, real brain already working for you.
Yeah, it's a continuous commitment to improving yourself as a person, which is really what you're speaking to in number 10. And now Ahmed asked this question. I got to ask you, can you list for us some books that would help with communication skills in emotional dentistry, or any tools, anything that you would suggest to somebody watching to get better at emotional dentistry, other than obviously DSD and DSD training? But is there anything that comes to mind in your path that really helped you?
Man, I'm very bad with books. We have a list of books that I don't remember by heart the names, but there's so many books on communication. If you Google communication skills, I would definitely, if I'm a young student, I would definitely invest on speaking skills, how to speak in public. Do a course with Chris Ramsey about body language, persuasion, and understanding human behavior. We talk a lot about that on the course, understanding human behavior. Some books explaining how to put lectures together. It's the best way to understand how much you really know about something is to pretend you need to put a lecture together about it. And then you realize how much you don't know about it, So practice putting lectures together. For me, my best ally was the slide presentation software, When I started to lecture with PowerPoint and I say, look, I'm very good at this. I want to put a 30-minute lecture around this topic. Oh my God, such an experience. Then you learn how much you don't know. You have to really organize your thoughts. You need to understand why you're good at something. And when you're trying to organize your thoughts, you start to learn better why you're good and why you're not good. How can you improve? How you can teach other people to be as good as you on something. Or even to make the right questions to the mentors, That's the key. Mentors, they really love students that make the right question.
Yeah.
100 students and you have that person that makes the right question, and to make the right question you need to practice what you know and what you don't know, what is missing, so you make that right question at the right moment.
Yeah, we always say the question is the answer. The better you get at questions, the better you become. And Christian, I've watched you get better at speaking all the time, and you're a master at it. And I would tell you, whole hands down, like, this is creating a slide presentation to present. That is the hardest thing in the world. We've all done it, been up till 2 a.m. trying to organize these slides. And you're right, you've got to have it all together, and you do learn how to get to be a better communicator. Now, Christian, I know people are going to be watching this and they're going to want to learn more about the DSD thing. You're doing so many things. You've got, I'll mention this, but we won't say it. You're doing your blog that's coming up here soon. You guys do a lot of education. How can I find out more about DSD? And keep in mind, people are listening to this on iTunes, so let's guide them to the right place too.
We have one website, one platform with a lot of information. It's digitalsmiledesign.com, digitalsmiledesign.com. Inside this website, you can learn more about the DSD app. You can learn more about all our courses. You can learn more about the DSD Planning Center services, the DSD Lab, the DSD community. Of course, feel free to follow me on Instagram. It's Chris Coachman. I share a lot of information on the Instagram stories, insights, not only about dentistry, about the dental world, dental conferences, dental congresses, tips for young dentists. I'm starting a blog very soon, next week, or 2 weeks probably. But everything is going to be either promoted on Facebook, Instagram. And on Facebook, Instagram, I'm really fast answering. I usually say that email, it takes me a month to answer. Messages, it takes a week. Facebook, it takes a day. And Instagram, it takes an hour.
Wow.
So that's usually how it works. So you can follow both Digital Smile Design on Facebook and on Instagram. and Christian Coachman on Facebook, Chris Coachman on Instagram. We are very active on, actually we are a social media company. We started in social media and we grew all over the world through social media. The community is great. So yeah, the website and social media, very easy to find us and to get in touch. Ask questions, we will be happy to answer.
Yeah, and you're going to show me how to use Instagram because I have no idea how to do that. So, buddy, I can't thank you enough for being on today. I'm so grateful. So stick around while we say goodbye to everybody else. But if you're watching this today and you enjoyed today, which I know you did, do us a huge favor just to hit the share button, share with your friends, because we love great information to go out and help protect this great profession that we love so much, that we are all a part of, which is called dentistry. And then also, too, you're going to see Christian is taking some downtime. He's going to be home for a couple months here because the lecture schedule is brutal for all of us, and we're going to be having a whole bunch more conversations. If there's something you want to see from Dr. Coachman, add it to the feed, and he and I will line up some shows. We'll get him back on here, and we'll ask him some really, really good questions. And if there's other things you want to see, just keep sending them to us. And until we see you next time, keep watching the Best Practice Show. You guys have a great rest of your day.